big tech is dehumanizing us on almost every level.
Right.
And we're seeing that no more than with today's AI, which, big tech creates the loneliness crisis and the mental health crisis through social media, and then they solve it with AI. That's the number one use case for ChatGPT these days is therapy and companionship.
Ouch. Ouch,
So,
ouch, ouch.
so what's the answer to all that? It's what God already made us for. It's the in-person relation. They will know you are Christians by your love for one another. That the one another's in the Bible, that doing of that, you know what that is? That's harder than it is to be on a screen. That's where you see people that are addicted to their screens. They can't have a face-to-face like we're doing right now. But when you push past the social pressure, the social issues, and get good at that, like there's nothing better. And that's what we're made for. And so the longings that we have that God gave us are only really fulfilled in Him, in connecting with Him, and then connecting with one another, not through a screen, but through real in-person embodied relationships. And I think the church is the answer, as it always has been, to fostering those kind of environments. And then what you're doing is super great and intentional of bringing people into your life.
And welcome, friends, to the Generations broadcast. Kevin Swanson with you today, and we are going to talk about the influence of media upon the mind, the heart, the lifestyle. Is it possible that there are forces that are effectively programming us to live our lives a certain way? Are we increasingly manipulated by forces sort of unseen? We're not really aware of it, but it's happening. Is it possible that we are in bondage? Is it possible that Satan, the world, has increasing levels of control over the minds and hearts of the masses in this generation? Well, I'd say so. I mean, you go back into the 1920s, back to the 1880s. Think of Almanza Wilder, farmer boy out on the eastern plains of, was it Missouri or up in the Dakotas? He was Little House on the Prairie guy who married Laura Ingalls Wilder. So when he's being raised out in western New York, he's he's not running into much media. He's not getting the latest pop music. If he's got to find a prostitute, he's got to get on his horse and ride for, I'd say at least 3 to 4 days. New York City might do it, but today, wow, click, 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 and you're there. You got a prostitute right there, X-rated, available on your iPhone, just like that. So everything's changed, and it's not just the pornography issue. It's so many other aspects of how the media has framed us, formed us, discipled us. And so that's why I like this latest book come from Doug Smith, who's with Covenant Eyes, by the way. It's called Unintentional: How Screens Secretly Shape Your Desires and How You Can Break Free. And Doug joins me now in Generations. Hey, Doug, it's good to see you.
Hey, Kevin, thank you so much for having me. It's a blessing to be here.
This is a massive issue. I mean, this is massive. The media is killing us. The media that we are ingesting is toxic, and it is changing the way people live, the way they relate to people, the way they are more or less hermetically sealed into their own isolated existence, and on and on. We talk about this all the time. Are we exaggerating this issue?
I don't think we are, Kevin. I think that most people don't realize what's happening because it happened relatively gradually. We're the old frog in the boiling pot. Yeah. The temperatures turned up high. But when I think about people, the stats are all over the place. When I think about people consuming digital media for 8 hours a day, more than really anything else, including sleep, what I think about is that most of us, nobody actually woke up one day and dreamed of sending their personal data to the most powerful corporations of the world for the most of their time, for more than a full-time job. Nobody intentionally went that route. And so that's why I wrote this book, was to help people flip an intentionality and balance. The industry is very intentional about leading us where they want us to go, and we're going with them. And it is, I would argue, just like you said, we have an enemy that wants to steal, kill, and destroy, and many people are, and they don't realize why. And that's why I love to speak into this issue.
Obviously, it's sucking us in. I mean, you have in brackets, unintentional, intentionally, I'm sure, because
That's right.
that was not an editorial mistake when you put the cover together. And the reason for that is it's a bit intentional, but it's also unintentional. It's people walk into it. They walk into pornography. They walk into this strange lifestyle, but it must be tempting. There must be something tempting to modern media that takes people into isolation, escapism, depravity, perversion, et cetera, et cetera. What is it? Is it a draw? Is there something that draws us in?
Oh my goodness, it's so much, so much. If people don't realize that what I say in a lot of my talks is we are the petri dish generation. We are being experimented on with thousands and thousands of experiments. Every time you're on a screen, every possible thing you could imagine and 10 times more things you can't imagine are being analyzed by what you do. And that data is all sent and analyzed with millions of hours, billions of dollars is spent on targeting you and what works on you. Did you linger just a little bit? Did you like that? Did you, swipe past that too quickly? Oh, okay, this works on you. This keeps you hooked. Wow. And they can individually target on purpose, exploiting our behavioral psychology, exploiting our neuroscientists. They hire the best, they hire top neuroscientists, top behavioral psychologists to break the Hippocratic oath, to be fair, to use to weaponize it. And make their products intentionally toxic. And when I say they, it's big tech. It's the big tech companies we're all familiar with. The Magnificent Seven, so-called, became that way. Became the most powerful companies on the planet by manipulating us. So 100%.
That's evil. They're 100%. Evil. You think they're evil? You would call them evil.
So
unintentionally, maybe. Perhaps they're unintentional.
I would say every rank and file person who works there. I wouldn't. I couldn't. Thou shalt not judge. But I would say that the fruit is evil. Mm-hmm. Right. You shall know them by their fruit, Jesus said. I would say their fruit is absolutely destructive and evil. And
has anybody come to recognize that among these top 7 big alphabet groups?
I mean, when they're called into Congress and they're held their feet to the fire, they whine and squirm and say they'll do better, and they don't, because they're buying both sides of the political aisle so they can continue to do what they do unabated. I don't really think they do. I mean, there are people that are calling. There's all kinds of documentaries. There's all kinds of things that have kind of shown what they're doing, and people have heard this, but we just really need to be reminded that everything they do is so perfectly designed to lure us in, and it works.
You refer to this book, Evil by Design, where evidently the 7 deadly sins of pride, sloth, gluttony, anger, envy, lust, and greed are kind of hardwired into the entire system, apparently. Can you give us some examples of that? How do they do that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because that book is it's written for developers like me. That's my day job. I'm a software engineer for Covenant Eyes.
Okay.
And so they actually kind of frame it tongue in cheek, wink, wink, nod, nod. We're not really being evil, but we really are. So what they do is they prey upon those 7 deadly sins. So like take, for example, sloth. That's like the idea of we're lazy by nature. Mm-hmm. So you hear about user interface designs being, wanting to make things easier. Well, they want to make a path of least resistance to the thing they want you to do most of all. And so they will design things like they'll make the obvious purchase thing the front and center thing. Or TikTok will optimize so that the video that's most tantalizing to you will be the front and center thing. And the easiest thing for you to do is to swipe endlessly. And that's a path of least resistance, preying upon our natural fallen state of slothfulness.
Wow. How about, lust is obvious, right? Lust is obvious. How about impatience or, the issue of, gluttony?
Yeah, impatience. Impatience happens when you get the idea of scarcity. That they'll say, you've only got just this short time to act. It may not happen. Act now, or it won't, or it won't work. One of the things that's with gluttony and with some of these other issues is that they take the same principles that work in casinos. especially the variable reward. We've heard all about the dopamine cycle. We've heard about all these other things that work to cause true addictions. That part isn't even debatable anymore. These are true addictions, but the variable reward, so the surprising aspect, it might this time happen this way. Next time it may be a little different. How many likes will I get for this? How many people will share that? Those kind of things. The anger, the preying upon anger is another one of them, one of the deadly sins. We've got quotes from former early investors into social media like Facebook and Instagram. Anger and outrage are one of the most profitable things they can optimize. So if they find things like if you make an angry comment on Facebook, that's you've been programmed to do that. And you're going to get more of that. You're going to get more and more angry because you know what? That's the most angry people are the most passionate purchasers of their advertisers' products, right? And so we're being led to a bad place.
I guess as Christians, we need to be principled. I mean, we need to understand what God's word tells us. We need to know when there are certain sinful temptations or when there is a sinful kind of thing happening, not just in the message, but the mode. And when it's appealing to certain sinful fleshly inclinations within us. You talk about, mockery, sexualization, uncivil discourse. Wow. There's a big mockery, right? Deep thought, impossible, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, these are real things. They are out there. They're constant. I mean, it's like about a 94% online, where you're just getting a lot of this anger and mockery and sexualization and everything that your mother told you not to do, effectively.
Pretty much, yeah. Except our mothers today, unfortunately, are preyed upon as well, and so they can't, they can't see that. So the really heartbreaking thing is that most people just don't realize it. They think they're doing what feels good. They feel lonely, so they're getting on social media or something like that. But they don't realize social media is making them lonely. They feel angry, and so they want to check out for a bit. But this is a coping mechanism that's being built in. Like you are being taken. That's why I wrote this, is try to wake up a righteous indignation in Christians to say, I don't want to be manipulated. Nobody likes to be manipulated, lied to, all that kind of stuff, right? So if you know that this is happening to you, you might respond. I would hope that's the prayer, is that you might respond and make more intentional choices with your life than big tech is.
I do presentations on pop culture in conferences all around the world, and one of the fastest go-tos, when you got 45 minutes, you got to just, okay, here's one practical thing to do. Oftentimes what I'll say is, in order to understand what the system is doing to you, one of the best things to do is to go to a media fast.
Yes.
Pull back for 3 to 6 months. We've done this as a family. And, just all that you're allowed to do is gather around the piano and sing, hymns and psalms together.
Awesome.
Go outside, play games, but you can't do media for 3 to 6 months. Now, if you do the media now I'm not saying that media is wrong. In fact, I would say make one exception, and that is tune into Generations from time to time. But okay, if you need to totally go without any media, then yes, you can cut off Generations as well. Get rid of the app and just be media free for 3 to 6 months. But what it did for us is that we could see what it was doing to us. And I think that was the biggest benefit to it, Doug. Any other thoughts and just practical things to self-evaluate?
Yeah, absolutely. So my book is really about discipleship and about, it has 5 biblical practices that leads you to a place of freedom in Christ. And the first one is surrender. Mm-hmm. And so when I say one thing to get to that practical is to surrendering it to Christ with open hands, all of your media, and asking the question, Lord, I'm yours. If he is Lord, I'm not, right? Mm-hmm. So then putting that on the altar, putting whatever it is, and then asking him what you can keep. Mm-hmm. And for some people that I mentor, they may not be able to have a smartphone because they work around Covenant Eyes or whatever else. They still go where they shouldn't. It's taking them off track, or whatever. Just even as I'm speaking, there are people probably thinking like, oh yeah, that app. Every time I go there, it takes me down a bad road. So just let God speak to you. The other thing I like to talk about is that discipleship, one of the best discipleship verses, I'm sure you talk about this all the time, is Deuteronomy 6.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just right about, right after Shema, what are we told as parents to do? Talk about it when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. Well, it turns out the big tech reads that verse. That's exactly what they're doing. If you think about where all the screens are in your life, they're when you sit down around the dinner table, they're when you walk by the way, which is be in your car, with the screen in your car. They're when you lie down, last thing you do when you go to sleep. When you rise up, the first thing you do when you wake up. So what I encourage people to do is to bracket those events in your home. Screen-free family meals, screen-free drives. I don't know how many times I had the best talks with my daughters driving because there were no screens. We didn't do screens in the car. When you lie down, when you rise up, put your phone, no screens in a bedroom, anybody's bedroom. That, even if you don't want to go on a full fast, which I love, if you will protect the Deuteronomy 6 locations,
wow,
then you will be more likely to be discipled by Christ or by the things you're doing there, rather than the screens that are invading all those precious spaces.
Now, I like to distinguish education and discipleship. We do that all the time as part of a homeschool Christian education kind of ministry. And the distinction, as I see it, is that education is cramming the facts into your head. It's just kind of a knowledge thing that happens in classrooms, typically by lectures and that sort of thing. But what discipleship does is it works with the head, the heart, and the hands. So it's a head, heart, hands thing. And right. What you're saying is that media is a discipler, even more so than some boring lecture. And by the way, this is an illustration I use all the time, is if I had an option of either giving my kids, 5 hours of boring lectures from Charles Darwin and your worst possible public school per day over a period of 5 years, or letting them onto the internet with Katy Perry and all of her friends for 5 hours a day, I would go with Charles Darwin in a heartbeat.
100%.
Because,
yep.
Your kids are going to fall asleep in the middle of the boring lectures. It's really not going to get much further than some superficial elements. I look at the public education system sort of that way. I mean, there's some dangerous elements to it. But when you want to talk about real danger, wow. Open your kids up to pop culture and letting Katy Perry and all her friends, I don't know why I'm picking on Katy Perry right now, but her name was the first one that came to mind. But whatever pop culture is out there, just to program your kid, not just mind, but it works its way into the heart, and then it actually sets their lifestyle. I mean, it puts them in a kind of lifestyle which is not healthy. And actually, almost everybody knows it's not healthy now. Humanist psychologists and media personalities themselves, and Elon Musk, and some of the guys that own these large corporations. I'll never give our kid my iPhone. I'll give them an iPad. I'll destroy them. I wouldn't do that. I mean, come on.
Steve Jobs did not give his kids an iPad.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think everybody knows how destructive this discipleship is. But it is discipleship. That's your point. This is discipleship. This will disciple your child in a certain way, head, heart, hands. 100%.
100%. And to me, that a distinctive about discipleship is that you're doing things with your head, heart, and hands, like you said, because of your trusted authority. And if your trusted authority is a TikTok influencer, or even is a group text at school, if those become your trusted authority over your parents, over your schooling, you've got wonderful people, homeschooling families that don't know any better and give their kids a phone. Like you're working at cross purposes there, because that phone is going to be much more discipling than you are. So I think because they're going to trust that more, because it's designed to manipulate the whole trust mechanism in the brain. And so then they will behave. And why is my child turning into this or that? Why are they doing that? Well, it's because they're discipled. They're being shaped. Their desire. That's why I call my book, Their Desires Are Shaped on Purpose. And the only way you can do it otherwise is to Deuteronomy 6 yourself and pull apart all the other things that compete for that.
And reshape desires into that which is healthy and what God would have us to do and the way in which God would have us to live.
That's right.
I guess just this is the way I've attempted to do it. I can't say I bat 1,000 at it. I mean, if I'm Major League and I'm doing 320, I'm doing great, right?
Right.
But I am really sincerely trying to bring in a more relationship-based life for my family and for others. In fact, I've started a discipleship center in my home. I mean, it's just simply guys come and live with us. That was 17 years ago. And to this day, we only have one young man living with us now, but we've had as many as 6 or 7 young men living with us.
Wow. That's awesome.
We'll have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them, and as well as our own children. And sometimes for 3 months a year, sometimes for 6 months a year, in the middle of a 6-month period right now. But I did this because I'm done with this derelationalized, isolationistic lifestyle that's killing our young men and young women. I mean, they don't need to just get off their porn sites. Okay, praise God for Covenant Eyes. Okay, we like Covenant Eyes. I'm on Covenant Eyes, but that's not enough. That's 2% of the job, right? The other 98% of the job is to restore relational life in the way that Jesus wants us to live this life. Comment on that a little bit yourself. This is just me, but what's your thought on that? The positive end of this.
Yeah, 100%. Well, big tech is dehumanizing us on almost every level.
Right.
And we're seeing that no more than with today's AI, which, big tech creates the loneliness crisis and the mental health crisis through social media, and then they solve it with AI. That's the number one use case for ChatGPT these days is therapy and companionship.
Ouch.
So what's the answer to all that? It's what God already made us for. It's the in-person relation. They will know you are Christians by your love for one another. That the one another's in the Bible, that doing of that, you know what that is? That's harder than it is to be on a screen. That's where you see people that are addicted to their screens. They can't have a face-to-face like we're doing right now. But when you push past the social pressure, the social issues, and get good at that, like there's nothing better, and that's what we're made for. And so the longings that we have that God gave us are only really fulfilled in Him, in connecting with Him, and then connecting with one another, not through a screen, but through real, in-person, embodied relationships. And I think the church is the answer, as it always has been, to fostering those kind of environments. And then what you're doing is super great and intentional, bringing people into your life.
I'm going to have to fast forward this thing, Doug, towards the end. We've got, yielded, changed, transformed, and disciplined, motivated, intentional. That's where we're headed. Let's get to disciplined, motivated, intentional. We want to turn into that. We need a lifestyle that's like that. Give us some of the high points on those chapters.
Yeah, so discipline. So those are the biblical practices. Again, disciplined is about changing your habits.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about, we've got habits that have been formed. So we need to learn what habits have been formed, and you can't just stop doing things. You have to start doing good other things.
That's right.
And what I lead people through is a process, what God has always done very graciously for me. It's not like, Doug, here's 500 things you need to change. It's always, Doug, here's the next thing you need to change.
Yeah.
And so we just iterate
Baby
on
steps.
that, get good at that.
One step
Baby
at a time.
steps. And God is gracious with that. So then motivated is about pursuing our calling. This is the essential last step, is to really understand you're here for a purpose. And you know what? The enemy doesn't want you to do your purpose. That's why he's happy to have you 8 hours a day on your social media, instead of like starting your own ministry like you have or whatever. We're all called. We're called to be the only people we can be for our kids.
That's right.
Anyway, so we got to pursue that. So I lead people through finding out your calling and going after it. And then unintentional, the last chapter is just summarizing it all together and just showing why it really matters. There's a battle for our hearts and minds and our kids' hearts and minds, and we have to fight it now. This is the only life we get to do it.
Very good. Wow. Well, that synopsizes the big book. Okay. It's a great summary of where to go with media. And guys, like it or not, we live in a media age. We better be ready for it. Better be equipped. Man and woman of God, got to be equipped for every good work, especially now. It's time to wake up and to smell the napalm in the war of the worldviews, and it is for us to understand the times. Why? So that we will know what to do. The men of Issachar, they understood the times. But why? So they would know what to do. And man, we got to equip the man and woman of God for that, Doug. And recommend unintentional. how screens secretly shape your desires and how you can break free. And everywhere online, just check it out. Grab a copy. Doug, thank you. And thanks for Covenant Eyes. Guys, if anybody doesn't have a filter, if there's no accountability in your house when it comes to internet, shame on you. I'm just going to say that. Shame on you. There's got to be something. We got to walk in the light as he's in the light. Okay? Right. I mean, that's basic. I walk in the light. Absolutely. I keep my screen open so that people can see what I'm doing. And I'm on Covenant Eyes. Our family's on Covenant Eyes. My son's on Covenant Eyes. I know that. I've got 6 or 7 guys in our church that they connect with me via Covenant Eyes. So, but walk in the light as he is in the light. Recommend Covenant Eyes for you. And Doug Smith, my guest on this edition of Generations. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
This has been a production of the Generations Media Network. For more information, go to generations.org/media.